Hi, I'm Myra Whitmore. I'm 34 years old, a resident in cardiology, and a single mom of 3-year-old twins. A phrase I never imagined I'd open a story with, but here we are. 2 months ago, I was bleeding out in the back of an ambulance after a car crash that could have ended my life. And what unraveled in the hours that followed wasn't just about a car accident. It was about family and what happens when the people who are supposed to catch you decide you're not worth it. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind you barely remember until it becomes unforgettable. I had just left the hospital after a grueling 16-hour shift, my third that week. The freeway was nearly empty. I was tired, yes, but alert enough. The light turned green and I pulled into the intersection. That's when the truck came out of nowhere. It ran the red light, speeding at least 50. It slammed into the driver's side of my car, metal shrieked, glass exploded, and everything spun into black. I woke up moments later to chaos. Sirens, paramedics, pain radiating through my abdomen like fire. I couldn't move, I could barely breathe. And right above me, I recognized a face. Marcus Smith, one of the ER physicians at my hospital. We'd worked side by side for 2 years. He looked pale, which is saying something for a man who threshes through blood every day. "Myra, can you hear me?" "Marcus," my voice sounded broken like it belonged to someone else. "You've got internal bleeding," he said, keeping me calm. "Possible organ damage, we're taking you into surgery right now." And all I could think about in that moment wasn't the blood or the surgery. It was my kids. Lily and Lucas, my joy, my world. They were home with a part-time babysitter who left at 8. It was already 7:15. I had 45 minutes to make sure someone was there to pick them up and stay with them. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers shaky, stained with blood. Everything in me was trembling. My parents' number was still saved, despite everything, despite their distance, despite the favoritism, despite making me feel like the runner-up daughter in a household obsessed with Vanessa, the golden child. But this wasn't the time to unpack that. I needed help. I needed someone. Anyone. I hit dial. It rang 4 times. My father's voice picked up, rushed. "Myra, we're about to leave. What is it?" I gasped. "Dad, I was in a car accident. They think I'm bleeding inside. Lily and Lucas are home with the sitter. She leaves in 45 minutes. I need someone to watch them." There was silence. And then I heard muffled voices in the background, my mother snapping at someone, Vanessa's unmistakable laugh echoing in the distance. Then the line went dead. A second later, a text notification flashed on my screen. It was from the family group chat. And I will never forget the words. "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. We've been planning this for weeks. Figure it out yourself." I read it again. Then again. It didn't change. These weren't strangers. These were the people I had supported emotionally, financially for the past 8 years, and in one of the most terrifying moments of my life, they dismissed me with a group text. Another notification popped up. This time from my father. "You're a doctor, you're used to hospitals, don't make this a bigger deal than it is." And then, Vanessa, grinning, squinting face. Just a laugh emoji. That was the sum of my worth to them. A burden and inconvenience, a group chat afterthought, a laughing emoji while I bled in an ambulance. Marcus had seen the message. I didn't even realize he was looking until he whispered, "Myra, do you need me to call someone else?" Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them away. I had to stay calm. "I need a phone with internet," I murmured, "mine's dying." Without hesitation, he handed over his phone, no questions. I searched for 24/7 emergency nanny services, found one with great ratings, called, explained my situation, flat, clinical, no emotion. "Yes, I'll pay triple the rate." "Yes, I give the sitter's number." "Yes, I authorize immediate payment." 4 minutes, crisis handled, not by my family, not by the people I used to think cared most, but by 2 strangers, Marcus and a service charging triple because I had no other choice. After the call, I handed Marcus his phone. Then I whispered, "Can you screenshot those messages for me before my phone dies?" He nodded slowly, "Yeah, I can do that." As the ambulance pulled up to the ER, the pain in my body was suffocating. But it wasn't just physical anymore. Something deeper split open that night, and it wasn't just my spleen. From that gurney, cold and terrified, IV in my arm and uncertainty in my lungs, I made a decision I never thought I'd be strong enough to make. I was done. Done carrying the very people who called me a burden. Done funding a family who didn't show up when I truly needed them. A surgery saved my life that night. But so did the decision I made in a morphine-drenched haze. I was finally done being their emotional and financial crutch. The operation lasted 4 hours. Internal bleeding, ruptured spleen, the doctors said another 10 minutes, and I may not have made it. I spent 5 days in recovery. 5 days on fluids, pain meds, blood pressure checks. 5 days of silence. Not a single call. Not a single visit. Not even a write-up in the family chats. Not for me, not for my twins. They simply continued on. Like I didn't exist. The emergency nanny was expensive, yes, but worth every penny. She coordinated with my regular sitter, stayed long hours, and even sent pictures. My babies eating Cheerios, playing with Legos, sleeping safe and warm in their dinosaur pajamas. Strangers had taken care of my kids with more concern than their own grandparents ever had. On day 3, I asked the nurse for my laptop. She hesitated, "You sure you're up to it?" I nodded, "I need to take care of some things." And that's where we'll pause for today. Before we continue, do me a favor. If you've ever felt like the strong one in your family, the one who carries the weight for everyone else, throw a broken heart in the comments. Or type "I've been there." And if this story is resonating with you, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. It lets me know this matters to someone else too. Trust me, what comes next, it's just beginning. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, please go back and watch that first. None of what you're about to hear will hit the same without it. Because when I say my accident wasn't the disaster, it was the reveal. I mean, it unlocked a truth I had been burying my entire life. That truth. Some people only love you when they benefit from it. And in my case, those people were the ones who raised me. To understand what happened in that hospital bed, the moment when I canceled the transfers and blocked them all, you need to know what led up to it. Specifically, what it felt like to grow up in a house where love was conditional. Then ranked. I was born into the Carver household, the reasonable daughter, the one who didn't cause problems, the one who had practical dreams. Vanessa, she was the gifted one, the future star. The girl with the spark. Beautiful, magnetic, effortless. And in our house, effortless meant worthy. The first time I realized that love came with a scoring system, I was maybe 8, maybe 9. We were at the dinner table. Vanessa had drawn a dress in her school sketchbook, pink glitter markers, doodles of high heels. Our mom looked at it like it was Renoir. "Oh, Vanessa, you could be a fashion designer." I had just brought home a science fair blue ribbon for a working heart model I made out of tubing and a recycled tennis ball. My dad's response, practical. That one word became a brand I carried like a scar, practicals. When Vanessa wanted to go to New York for a fashion summer camp, of course she needs exposure. When I asked to go to robotics camp in Boston, it's expensive, you can build robots in the garage. And so it went. I buried myself in textbooks. I aced AP Bio while Vanessa skipped algebra to volunteer at boutique fashion shows. She was creative. I was disciplined. She was sensitive. I was strong. It was never said outright, but it was clear. Vanessa's emotions deserved attention. Mine were distractions. I kept thinking I could outgrow it. That once I achieved enough, succeeded enough, they'd finally see me. So I poured myself into school. 4 years of undergrad. 4 years of med school. And now, my 3rd year of residency in cardiology, one of the most competitive specialties in medicine. The day I graduated from medical school should have shattered every illusion. Instead, it confirmed them. My parents arrived 2 hours late to the ceremony. No flowers, no dinner, barely a photo in the parking lot. Not because they got stuck in traffic, but because Vanessa had a last-minute meeting with a potential investor. They had to drop her off first. It was like Vanessa's achievements were shared by the family. But mine were tolerated. And still, even then, I kept telling myself they love me in their own way. And the ultimate betrayal of that thinking is that when they needed help, they didn't hesitate to ask. 8 years ago, shortly after my med school graduation, I got a phone call from my dad. "Myra, we're in a tight spot this month. The mortgage payment is due just this once, sweetheart." I didn't even question it. Of course I helped. I transferred $2,400 that night. Because that's what family does, right? But just this once didn't end. It became monthly. Then the health insurance. Then car repairs. Then the roof leak. Then a new furnace. Then Vanessa needed help with seed money for her brand. I set up the payments so they happened automatically, twice a month like clockwork. I was covering $3,200 monthly. You might be thinking, surely they thanked you at least. Nope, not once. Not on Christmas, not on birthdays, not a single "we appreciate you." Not even a card when I gave birth to my twins. Let me say that again. When Lily and Lucas arrived, nearly 5 weeks premature, I was studying for my board exams on 2 hours of sleep while postpartum and recovering from C-section stitches. I called my mom after a scary bleed during my 5th month. "I'm worried," I said through tears. "The doctor says I need to stay off my feet and on bed rest." Her reply, "Oh honey, we wish we could come, but Vanessa just got back from Milan and she's completely overwhelmed. She really needs us right now." They didn't come for the complications. They didn't come for the twins' birth. They didn't fly out for their birthdays or their first steps. But the payments, oh, those went out like a heartbeat. Every 1st and 15th. I started keeping a spreadsheet more out of instinct than intention. I just needed to see it all. The numbers were staggering. Over 8 years. That's $320,000. And here's the worst part. I never did it for thanks. I never expected applause. All I ever wanted was to feel like I meant something to them, not for what I gave, but for who I was. But that night in the ambulance, when I got that text, "You've always been a burden, figure it out yourself," that was the moment the fantasy died. And in its place came something unexpected. Freedom. After I was out of surgery, I had 5 long days to recover and reflect. No flowers. No family visits. No grand gesture from the people I once would have bled dry for. That's when I asked the nurse for my laptop. And with hands so used to charting vitals, I opened my bank app instead. $2,400 every month. $800 every 15th. Click. Cancel. Done. Then I opened my phone settings and blocked their numbers: Dad, Mom, Vanessa. No monologue. No crying fit. Just the quiet satisfaction of releasing a weight I had carried so long, I didn't even know it was crushing me. Later that week, Marcus visited me in the hospital like he had every day since the crash. He brought coffee, and for the first time ever, I told him the truth. "How are you feeling?" he asked. And I looked him straight in the eye and said, the full fallout was still ahead. Reactions, accusations, drama. It would all show up eventually. But in that moment, I had no guilt, no fear, just peace. And that peace was worth more than all 96 payments I had ever made. Pause here. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace while your needs were put last? Have you ever kept giving, hoping it would earn you love, only to realize it never would? If you've ever been that person, the one who sacrifices while others take, type enough in the comments. Let this be the story where you realize it's okay to say, "I matter too." And if this is resonating, hit subscribe, that way you won't miss what's coming next. Because in the next chapter, boom, there's a knock on the door. And standing on the other side of it, someone I hadn't seen in 3 years. And everything was about to change. It had been 2 weeks since my accident. 2 weeks since the text, the surgery, the silence. 2 weeks since I canceled the payments and blocked 3 names that used to define my world. I was back at home, sore but healing. The twins were adjusting, I was adjusting. Saturday morning, the kitchen was warm, pancakes sizzling, butter melting, maple syrup filling the air. Lily was humming beside the fridge. Lucas was stacking blocks beside the toaster. Everything was quiet, peaceful. Until the knock came. 3 sharp raps on the front door. I froze. Funny how even after walking away, your heart still glitches when you think it might be them. I grabbed a towel, wiped my hands, and tiptoed to the peepholes. And that's when my breath caught. It wasn't them. It was someone else, someone I hadn't seen in years. Standing at my front door was a tall man, silver hair, sharp eyes, and presence like a gavel hitting wood. Grandpa Thomas, a former federal judge. A straight-backed, tailored suit even on Saturdays. Fiercely intelligent, reserved, unshakably fair. And rarely involved. Growing up, I never knew how much he saw. My parents always said he was too busy or too tired to visit, but deep down, I suspected they didn't want him around too often. Because he noticed everything. That day, he wasn't just visiting. He was on a mission. I opened the door and immediately felt his arms wrap around me in a hug so tight, it made my fresh surgical incision ache. "Myra," he said, voice strained with something deeper than words, "let me look at you." He stepped back and scanned me from head to toe. Soft eyes, stern mouth, warm hands. "I know," he whispered. "Well, I heard everything." He sat at my kitchen table as Lily and Lucas swarmed him with toys and pancake crumbs. He let them with full attention. "They look like you did at this age," he said, smiling as Lucas tried to show him his tower of blocks. Same stubborn chin, same sparkle. I sat across from him with 2 mugs of coffee, my heart hammering in my chest. "Grandpa, how did you know?" He set his cup down gently. "Alina told me," he said. "My Aunt Alina, my mother's younger sister, the only person in the family who ever dared to question my parents, the one who always sent me real birthday cards, always saw me. She called me the night it happened," he continued. "She heard from a cousin what your parents said and what they didn't do." He looked away for a moment, jaw tight. "I've watched the imbalance for years, Myra, the way they treat you versus Vanessa. I'm old, not blind." My voice was barely a whisper. I thought maybe I'd imagined it, maybe I was just making it bigger than it was. "Let me tell you something. You don't imagine injustice, you feel it until it breaks something inside you." He leaned in, his voice was low but legal. "I was a judge for 40 years, I know how to tell truth from narratives." He paused. "And I'm telling you, you are not wrong." Then he opened his coat pocket and pulled out something I wasn't expecting. An envelope, elegant, cream-colored, gold trims. "An invitation." "My 70th birthday," he explained. "Next Saturday, everyone will be there, extended family, out-of-town cousins, even some press invites." He smiled faintly. "You know your grandmother." He locked eyes with me. "I want you to come." "Why?" I asked carefully. "Because there are things," he said, "that need to be said out loud in front of everyone." And before I could argue, he added, "And I need your help." He sipped the coffee I made. "Do you still have records of everything you sent your parents?" I nodded slowly. "Every transfer, every date, I kept them all." "Good, I want a summary, a full timeline, every dollar, every month." I stared at him. "Grandpa's why?" He didn't answer immediately. He just sat there watching Lucas spill syrup on the table and Lily nibble on burnt pancake edges. When he spoke, his voice felt like thunder in a courtroom. "Because lies are quiet by nature. But the truth rings out." I let too much go before, watched too much without saying enough, not this time. He leaned forward and tapped the envelope. At the party, we're going to let the truth speak for itself. The next 10 days were a blur of paper trails and emotional unraveling. I pulled every bank statement, every online transaction, every labeled file in that spreadsheet I'd kept more out of trauma than logic. 8 years. Over $360,000. I bound it all in a plain manila folder, no drama, just data. Just a proof. I wish I could say it felt freeing, but it didn't. What it felt like was grief, like measuring a relationship by its receipts, like proving how much love cost you. 3 nights before the party, Annalena came by after work. She wore her signature green scarf and unfiltered honesty. She flipped through the folder, flipping pages like someone reading a crime file. $360,000, she muttered, Jesus. Then she looked me dead in the eyes. Myra, do you realize what this is? You funded their life and they called you a burden. I gripped the edge of the counter with both hands. I don't want to destroy the family. Alina shook her head. You're not destroying anything. You're stopping the lie. That evening, I got a text from a cousin I barely speak to. Heard through the grapevine that things blew up between you and your parents. Vanessa's telling people you've been unstable since your accident. Thought you should know. I just stared at it, not with shock, but with resignation. They were already turning the narratives, laying the groundwork. Vanessa painting herself as the concerned sibling, my parents. Broken-hearted victims. It was the same game. But I wasn't the same player anymore. If you've ever had someone try to falsify your story, pretend your pain is overreaction. Paint you as crazy simply because you finally enforced a boundary. Type truth in the comments. Because the gaslighting ends here. And next, we walk into Grandpa's estate. The whole family gathered. Fancy suits, champagne, laughter, a picture of legacy. None of them ready for what's about to happen. My family spent years erasing my story in silence. But now the truth gets a microphone. Grandpa Thomas's estate looked like something out of a movie. 3 acres of manicured lawn, white columns, massive oak trees casting perfect shadows. I pulled up the winding driveway, my stomach clenched tighter than a surgical glove. The twins chattered in the back seat, marveling at the size of the house and the balloons they spotted through the tall windows. I didn't feel ready. Didn't feel strong. But I had the truth and the folder in my bag, and sometimes that's more powerful than courage. Inside, the party was already buzzing. Champagne flowed, a string quartet played softly. Waiters in black ties moved through the crowd balancing trays of canapes. And then I saw them. My parents. My father dressed in his best navy suit, polished, relaxed. My mother hairstyled, makeup flawless, laughing at some distant cousin's joke. They didn't look worried at all. Which told me one thing. They didn't think I would show up. For a moment, we all stood there across the room. 3 statues in stale air. Then Vanessa appeared like stage fog, floating up in heels I could never afford, wearing a designer dress I was probably still unknowingly paying off. Her smile was sharp. Her eyes cold. "Oh, Myra," she said, kissing the air next to my cheek. "So glad you came. We were all just saying how worried we were after your little accident." I held her gaze. I almost died, ruptured spleen, internal bleeding. Her smile flickered. Mom said it was just a fender bender. Mom wasn't there. There it was, the crack. Just for half a second. Then she recovered. "Well, you look fine now, that's what matters." Fake compassion, real damage. I wasn't here to fight, but I also wasn't here to stay quiet. 30 minutes in, I stood near the drink table getting apple juice for the twins when I heard it. Vanessa's voice. Loud, clear, deliberate. "I'm just really worried about her. Ever since the accident, she's been unstable." Aunt, cousins, a circle of listeners all nodding. She stopped responding, cut off Mom and Dad, says we abandoned her, it's just so sad. My mother stepped into the conversation like a tragic Greek chorus. She won't return our calls, she said, sniffling. We love her so much, we raised her, we don't understand where this is coming from. She's just always been so dramatic, Vanessa added kindly, twisting the knife. I think being a single mom is just getting to her. Every word landed like a small cut. Pitying glances swung toward me, I stayed still. Let them talk. The longer they spun the narrative, the harder the truth would hit. At that moment, Aunt Alina appeared beside me, seething. They've been working this angle all week, she whispered. Calling uncles, spinning the story, they're scared. I know, I said, calm. Across the room, Grandpa Thomas stood and tapped his glass 3 times. Silence. You could feel the room pivot like a courtroom turning toward its judge. Before we continue with the celebration, he said, voice rich with that bench command, I need a few moments of your attention. Family matters. The crowd shifted, expectant. My dad stepped forward first, oddly confident. Dad, before you speak, he said, placing a warm hand on Grandpa's shoulder, I think the family deserves context. Grandpa allowed it. And so began their defense. Dad, Myra's been going through something. We didn't want to say anything, but she's not the same since the crash. She's confused, distancing herself. Mom, every family goes through ups and downs. She's always been sensitive. We love her, she just won't let us in. Vanessa from across the room. It's not just about us. She's been telling people we abandoned her during her accident. That's just not true. I didn't move. But inside, something inside me snapped back into place. This was the last time they would speak for me. And just as whispers began to spread through the crowd, Grandpa raised his hand. Are you finished, Richard? His voice was quiet, controlled, lethal. My dad froze. I just thought. This family, said Grandpa, stepping forward, deserves the truth. And then he pulled my folder from inside his blazer. The facts. Let's start with something simple, Grandpa said, pacing forward. Who has been paying the mortgage on your home for the past 8 years? My father blinked at him. What? Your mortgage, $2,400 a month for 96 consecutive months, because I have the documents right here, each payment coming directly from Myra's account. A collective gasp tore through the silence. My mom sputtered, she offered that, we never asked. No one's accusing you of extortion, Grandpa responded coolly, just stating facts. Then he read line by lines. Mortgage, $230,400. Health insurance after Dad lost his job, $76,800. Car repairs, maintenance, family expenses, $45,000. Vanessa's seed money for fashion venture, $12,000. Total, $364,200. But Myra's not stable, Grandpa asked. She's confused. He looked around the room. My question is simple. In return for over $360,000, how many of you visited her after her surgery? Silence. Or thanked her, or helped her with her twins while she was postpartum and studying for boards? Still silence. Then he spoke the clearest words of the night. You didn't see her as family, you saw her as funding. Then, he pulled out his phone. I'll now read the text Myra received from her mother while in the ambulance, bleeding, about to enter surgery. Myra, you've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. Figure it out yourself. Another gasp. Vanessa, that's being taken out of. Alina, out of what, the abyss? It's a text, we all saw it. Grandpa. She almost died, she called her parents, and they left her with this. You could feel the room shift. Cousins breaking away, aunts blinking back tears. Someone muttered, $360 grand. I could have stayed quiet. Let it stand with Grandpa. But I found myself stepping forward, voice shaking but clear. I didn't come for revenge, I said to the room. I came because I finally stopped buying love that should have been free. I turned to my parents. You didn't think I needed help? Because your help was never conditional, mine always was. I gave without asking, you took without stopping. Then to the family. For 34 years, the story was that I was the strong one, that Vanessa needed more support, that I didn't ask for anything, and you believed it because I made it easy. But strength doesn't mean invisibility and silence. It's not permission, it's pain dressed up. My mother sobbed, real sobs now, not the performative kind. My dad looked like he aged 10 years. Vanessa, silent for once. Someone asked, what happens now? I breathed in slow and said, I'm done carrying what isn't mine. From now on, no more payments, no more guilt. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's deciding what I won't allow anymore. I picked up Lucas, who was licking the frosting off some cousin's cupcake. Lily waved to a relative with no clue what had just exploded around her. And I looked at my family, the ones who saw me now. Not as the strong one, not the reliable mule, but as a daughter, a human being finally standing upright. So let me ask you, have you ever hit a point where you stopped explaining your pain and just showed the proof? Have you ever dropped the truth like a folder on a polished floor and let it do the talking? Drop Sparkle's Truth Speaks in the comments if this part hit home. And if you're not already subscribed, now's the time. Because in part 5, we get to the aftermath. The calls, the unraveling, the unexpected endings. And one final apology that might just open a new door. After the party, after the truths were read and the silence finally broke, there was no screaming, no yelling, no one grabbed a coat and stormed out. There was just a kind of stillness. The kind that shows up after thunder. After impact. After the truth stops echoing. My parents left quietly. No goodbyes, no closing arguments. Dad guided Mom to the car while she cried into his shoulder. Vanessa followed behind them, her face pale, her silence louder than anything she could have said. No one stopped them. No one said they were being treated unfairly. No one defended their side. Because this time there was no spin left to sell. That night I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel broken. I felt clear. Like something that had been clogging up my spirit for 3 decades had finally dislodged itself. And in the days that followed, that clarity sharpened. The first wave, the phone started ringing. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years reached out one by one. Speech balloon, I just want to say I'm sorry, I never knew. Speech balloon, I always thought Vanessa needed more and you were the one who had it all together. Speech balloon, thank you for saying what most of us were never brave enough to. A few aunts texted to say they'd cut off contact with my parents entirely. One uncle admitted he was ashamed he hadn't seen it sooner. They were always polite liars, one older cousin wrote, but Vanessa weaponized softness. You just quietly saved everyone, including them. I see it now. The family group chat. You know, the one where they called me a burden while I was bleeding in an ambulance. Silenced. Then gone. Deleted. If you've ever left a toxic group chat and felt that weight vanish from your shoulders. You know, graduation capped that $3,200 per month I used to send. It was rerouted. Straight into a college savings fund for Lily and Lucas. I may never get back what I gave them, but my kids. They're starting out with a freedom I had to claw my way toward. Weeks later, the repercussions start rolling. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Annalena. They're selling the house. I blinked. What? Your parents, they listed it. I guess the mortgage caught up with them, now that someone else isn't quietly paying it. For a flicker of a second, I expected to feel satisfied. Vindicated. But I just felt tired. Not petty. Not cruel. Done. They had built a castle on my silence, and when I stopped agreeing to be the foundation, it crumbled. Vanessa, she didn't bounce back. Her darling designer image had taken a major hit after that night. Not everyone in the room was family. Someone knew someone in fashion, and word got around. She lost a major contract. Rumors of mistreatment, exploitation, and family drama followed her. Last I heard, she was waitressing part-time. I didn't reach out, but I didn't gloat either. Because what was happening wasn't about revenge. This was just consequences catching up. My parents, living in Uncle Frank's guest house on a conditional basis. The condition, they get real jobs. Not backup plans, not pipe dreams, real work. Dad took part-time work at a hardware store. Mom started doing bookkeeping for a small-town church. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. And I hoped for their sake it was humbling. Because when entitlement dries up, you're finally forced to face who you really are. Then 6 months after the party, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe closure, made me answer. And I heard a voice I hadn't heard since the party. Vanessa. She sounded drained. No glam. No smug tone. Just a human. Myra, she said, her voice cracking, please don't hang up, I just need to say something. I sat down slowly. I'm listening. She paused, audibly swallowed, then whispered, I'm sorry. Not a fake one. Not performative. Real. I'm sorry for laughing at that message. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I'm sorry for liking being the favorite, even when I knew it hurt you. She took a shaky breath. I didn't realize you were paying for everything. I thought Mom and Dad were. Managing, I just thought you had it easy. Did you ever ask? I said softly. She was quiet. No, because I didn't want to know. The line was still for several seconds. I see it now. I closed my eyes. Then start from there, I said. And then gently I hung up. Will we ever be close again? I don't know. But I do know this. That call wasn't closure. It was an opening. The first crack in a decades-old wall that maybe could one day come down. But I wouldn't be the one to tear it down. Not anymore. 1 year later. I'm writing this from the small balcony of a 2-bedroom apartment I just leased 5 minutes from the hospital and 5 minutes from the twins' daycare. It isn't huge, it isn't luxurious. But it's paid for by me and no one else. And no one else's mortgage is being secretly deducted from my peace. My kids are laughing in the background. Their grandpa's house has become their favorite adventure spot. Judge Grandpa, they call him, even though he says he's long retired. Every Sunday, he takes them to the zoo, the park, an ice cream date I pretend not to know about. He hugs me before every drop-off. You're raising them right, he said once over breakfast.
If this story meant something to you, please like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you want more series like this, real, raw, and hopeful, check out the next one I've linked below. Until next time, choose you. You deserve it.